עלי מצוות עשה של ואהבת לרעך כמוך כמוך הריני מקבל עלי מצוות עשה של ואהבת לרעך כמוך כמוך חברים כל ישראל חברים כל ישראל חברים כל ישראל הריני מקבל עלי חברים כל ישראל חברים כל ישראל חברים כל ישראל הריני מקבל עלי עלי מצוות עשה של ואהבת לרעך כמוך כמוך הריני מקבל עלי מצוות עשה של ואהבת לרעך כמוך כמוך חברים כל ישראל חברים כל ישראל חברים כל ישראל הריני מקבל עלי חברים כל ישראל חברים כל ישראל חברים כל ישראל הריני מקבל עלי
Hi, good morning. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Let me just adjust my camera here so I can see you all and you can see me. Okay. How are you? Thumbs up. Good. Okay, so it is our last Parsha Shiur of I guess this Torah learning year, and we're in the Bein HaMetzarim. So Be'ezrat Hashem, we should like I said last time, we should it's weird. Sorry, hold on one second. We should take advantage of the gel time that we are about to go into, and learn on our own and let things sink into our hearts. And hang on, sorry, 1 second. See, there's something wrong with the host and not me. Somehow, Shulamit, you are the hostess and not me. And I need to be the hostess so that I can share the screen. So I'm just writing to Shimon, and then we'll start properly in 1 second, as soon as he makes me the host, Bezrat Hashem. Somehow this camera is like annoying me today, the angle that it's at. Okay, I guess that's better. Okay, so we have a beautiful, beautiful piece of Chassidus to learn together today. We are reading Parshas Devarim, and of course, Devarim is always read on Shabbat Chazon. So Tisha B'Av is next week. It should be canceled. Tisha B'Av should not be next week, but right now we are in this time period of Bein HaMetzarim, and that's always an interesting time for growth and development. And Bezrat Hashem, when we fully understand Chassidus in a deeper way, and the world is, and we can see the world through the eyes of Chassidus, then we'll understand really what this time period of Bein HaMetzarim is about, and how it's actually really for our own benefit, and somehow it will all make sense to us, Bezrat Hashem. So, but Sefer Devarim is it's really different than the other four Chumashim, obviously. It's the only one that's said from the mouth of Moshe Rabbeinu, and meaning, and we'll talk about what that means today, but basically everything until now has been, the story of creation, and the story of the Avos and the Imaos, and the story of Yetzias Mitzrayim and Bnei Israel in the Midbar. And now Moshe Rabbeinu, the last Sefer Devarim, is his farewell speech, essentially. It's like his, Sav V'ziruz, I guess you could say. It's his last will and testament. It's his, giving over to Am Yisrael, his sort of final words of advice, and of course also rebuke. And that makes it very, very different than the rest of the four Chumashim. And there's a foundational piece by Reb Tzaddik HaKohen, which I sent out to you. And we'll learn together, Bezrat Hashem. I hope that we get through the whole thing. I may have to summarize a little bit at the end because I'm anticipating that it might take us a little while. But it's such an important piece, and it's such an important gateway to how to read Sefer Devarim. So hopefully, let's see if I'm able to share. Okay. So let me see if I can share the screen. Yeah, it looks like I can. And no, that's not what I wanted to share. Hang on. You're all seeing. Yes, I want to review these files later. Sorry. Okay, hang on. It's this down here. Hang on. Where did it go? Sorry about that. What is on my, I thought I organized this. Okay, give me 1 second to find it. I'm sorry, hang on 1 second. I set it up to be on the screen, and as usual, it's not quite going as planned. Okay, this should work. Okay, open, there we go. Sorry, thank you for your patience. Okay, there we go. that, and close that. And now share screen. And there we go. There it is. Okay, very good. So, so Rav Tzadok was a student of the Ishbitzer, and he so he lived like in the late 1800s, and gave us some mamish amazing Torah. Okay, so without further ado, you can all see it? Yes? Okay, I also sent it out on the WhatsApp group. So what I sent out was this piece. And then here's the thing about today. Rav Tzadok is really unbelievable in that he quotes things all over the place. Like every single thing that he writes, almost, it almost is like a few connecting words of his and another quote from Gemara, Tanakh, Zohar. And so you really need to, like, basically I sat there with this piece, and thank God for Sefaria. If you're not familiar with Sefaria, go on it and have a field day. It's quite amazing. I don't know how people did this without Sefaria. Thank God I have Sefaria. But basically I looked up every single quote that he put in here, because if you don't understand the quotes that he puts in here, then it's impossible to really fully understand the piece and to really fully appreciate the depth of the piece. So what I did was I sent out to you guys, I can't have two screens. You see, I have enough trouble with one screen. So I can't have two screens up here. So what I did was I sent it out to you guys through the WhatsApp group. And if you want to have that on your phone, if you want to take a minute to go off your phone and print it out, then that would be great. I am going to reference them, but if you would like to have them in front of you, then I think that's the only way to do it. Okay, without further ado. Eila Devarim asher diber Moshe v'gomer. Okay, so that's the first pasuk of Sefer Devarim. Okay, I'll read it to you in full from the source sheet. If you have, again, if you have your source sheet in front of you, or if you have if you want to print it out to have in front of you, that would be great. Eila Devarim asher diber Moshe el kol Yisrael. These are the words that Moshe addressed to all of Bnei Israel. Be'ever hayarden, across, right on the other side of the Yarden. That's where they're sitting, about to come into the land. Bamidbar ba'arava Musuf ben Paran ben Tefel, V'lavan v'chatzeros v'dei zahav. And this is a list of all the places that it's sort of like a Google map point, a location point, through the wilderness in the Arava near Suf, between Paran and Tofel, Lavan, Chatzeros, and Dizahav. And that's where they're sitting, okay? So Rashi says immediately to that, and I have that's the second source on your sheet if you have it in front of you. If not, I'll just tell you what it says. Eila Devarim, lefi shehen divrei tochachot, okay? That Rashi basically says, Eila Devarim, that those words mean that what's about to follow is rebuke. Okay, this is what Moshe Rabbeinu is kind of like going to say. These are all the things that we could have done better, or you could have done better. Okay, and he lists basically all the places that Bnei Israel made Hashem angry. And he does it in remez in order to preserve the kavod of Am Yisrael. But basically, it's like if you have an episode with your family where some real big huge meltdown or a big turning point or whatever happened, and you say like, remember Disney World, and people like immediately understand what you're talking about. And that's basically what's happening here. Okay. That Moshe is going to kind of list a bunch of different places, and Bnei Israel, miyad, immediately recognize what he's talking about in those places. And therefore we can see that these are words of tochacha. These are words of how to make yourself learn, how to enable yourself to learn from past mistakes. Okay, that's how we're going to define tochacha. Okay, So this is how Rav Tzaddik starts out, okay? And he says, "B'tanchuma," then the page, okay? The Midrash, "Zoi sparach shmo shel melech malchei amlachim v'chulei." The Midrash begins the Parsha by saying that that Hashem basically shekol anisim she'asa Yisrael bamidbar kach atid la'asos lahem b'tzion. Okay, so the Midrash says everything that Hashem did for us in the midbar, all the miracles that Hashem performed for us in the midbar, He's going to perform also upon upon Mashiach coming. When Mashiach comes, that's what Tzion references. That when it's time for Mashiach, that Hashem's going to do all the same things that He did for us in that Hashem's going to do all the things that He did for us in the midbar as well. I'm just going to make the print bigger so you guys can see it better. I can barely see it, so I wanted to make it bigger so you could see it, if you will. That was my Rachmanis on you and on me. Okay, so He's going to do that all for us, and this is referenced in the Midrash. How does the Midrash know that everything that Hashem did for us in the midbar, He's going to do for us in Tzion? The midbar then lists, and if you have it on your source sheet, you can see Bamidbar Ktiv. Ela Hadvarim, right? In the midbar it says Ela Hadvarim. This is how the Sefer starts. Ubetzion Ksiv, and this is a quote from Yeshayahu. Asim machshach, excuse me. Asim machshach lifnehem leor umakashim lemishor Ela Hadvarim asisim velo azavtim. And the Midrash uses that same phraseology, Eila Devarim, and that whole pasuk means, so it is written concerning the wilderness, these are the words, Eila Devarim, and it's written concerning Tzion in Yeshayahu, I will turn darkness before them into light, right? Asim machshach lifnehem laor, umakshim lemishor, and either rough places to level ground, that's what he's physically talking about, but makshim means crooked things. Crooked things, lemishor, yashar. Okay, I'm going to make crooked things straight. Eila hadvarim asisim velo azavtim. And those are the words of Yeshayahu. I will do these things and I will not do them. Okay, I will never stop doing them. And so because, and then the Midrash actually goes into this whole long list. Like that's just one example out of about 10, where it says Bamidbar it says this, and B'tzion it says this. Bamidbar it says this, B'tzion it says this, and it's always like at least one word in common, if not a whole phrase. And so Rav Tzaddik is immediately seeing that all those references, and they're mostly from Yeshayahu and Yirmiyahu, and basically anytime anytime the word Tzion is mentioned, and there's another word that's also mentioned in Sefer Devarim, so he's bringing that down. He's basically saying that everything that happened to us in the midbar, Hashem will do for us in the times of Mashiach. V'achar kach chashav shar psukim shene'emar b'midbar u'b'tzion. Okay, that's what I just said. That after referencing that one piece, Eila Devarim, so also there's a whole long list of all the things that Hashem's going to do for us in Tzion. Okay. Va'ikar shaychus leperush zu hu pasuk Eila Hadvarim. And our primary focus right now is the phrase Eila Hadvarim. These are the things, okay, or these are the words. V'tzarich lahavin de Eila Hadvarim de Parsha zu hu kei al Moshe shehu diber. Okay, and in this Parsha, right, who's saying the Eila Devarim here? Moshe Rabbeinu, right? This whole book is Moshe Rabbeinu's speech to Am Yisrael. U'v'tzion Eila Devarim asisim kei al Hashem yisbarach. But about Tzion, it's saying, right, that it's Hashem who's saying Eila Devarim. These are the things, or these are the words. So it's a big difference, right, between a person saying something and Hashem saying something, except that A, this is Moshe Rabbeinu, and B, this is a sefer of Chumash. Okay, that's our gateway. Umahu adimyon zelazeh. So how can we compare them, right? That this one is being spoken by Moshe Rabbeinu, and this one is being spoken by Hashem. Va'inyan de'ela hadvarim de Parsha zu kolel bet inyanim. Okay, so we have to look at two things, two aspects of the Eila hadvarim that we find in Devarim. One, echad shehem Mishnah Torah, v'hu hatchalat haTorah shel Moshe Rabbeinu, shehu b'chinas Torah sheba'al peh. Okay, so the first thing is that this Sefer, Devarim, is referred to as Mishnah Torah, right? Why is it referred to as Mishnah Torah? Because Mishnah, Shnei, second. It's the second version of Torah, right? There's so many things that are a repetition in Devarim that we had already, most famously, the Aseres HaDibros, right? The Aseres HaDibros, we had them in Shmot, and now we have them again in Sefer Devarim. So Rav Tzaddik is saying that the first inyan is that the fact that Devarim is Mishnah Torah basically means that it's the beginning of Torah Sheba'al Peh, right? Because it literally is Torah Sheba'al Peh Moshe. It's Hashem's Torah, but it's coming through the mouth of Moshe Rabbeinu. And he's going to delve into this deeper, but I just want to say one thing, right? We always talk about Moshe Rabbeinu being the most unav person that ever lived. Moshe Rabbeinu was the most humble person that ever lived. What does that mean? It means that he had no existence outside of his service to Hashem. Everything that he did was because Hashem told him to, because Hashem wanted him to, because it was enabling other people to serve Hashem in the way that Hashem needs to be served and in the way that we need to serve Hashem. So all of the other Sifrei Torah were also said, I mean, you know, the vast majority of psukim are Vayidaber Hashem el Moshe lemor, right? And then Moshe tells them to Bnei Israel. So everything is really coming through the mouth of Moshe, but there's a difference because in those times, it's basically Hashem, you know, speaking through the mouth of Moshe Rabbeinu. And in Sefer Devarim, it is ke'ilu still that, but it's also this idea that Moshe Rabbeinu is saying the things that need to be said from a different place. And we'll talk about why it has to be that way in 1 second. Okay. Have a seat. Okay. V'kmo shekasuv. Okay, and it's Bailey, shah. It says in Gemara Megillah, Umoshe mipi atzmo amran. Okay, that it says in the Gemara that, and I have it for you on the source sheet if you have the source sheet, that Moshe pronounced, right? It says that the tochacha, the rebuke that's in Vayikra is basically, you know, coming straight from Hashem through the mouth of Moshe. But the tochacha that's stated in Devarim, it says in Gemara that this is umipi Moshe mipi atzmo amran. So what does that mean? Moshe mipi atzmo. He says it with his own mouth. There's some element of Moshe Rabbeinu in the words that he says of Devarim. It's not the funnel it's not a pure funnel. It's funnel through the lens, like refracted, right? Like light, like, I don't know if anybody remembers this from 10th grade chemistry or something like that, right? But like when you put like a straw in a glass of water and you look at it through the sunlight, right? So you see that the straw sort of bends a little bit. And that's what's happening here. Chas v'shalom, I don't mean, you know, there's not a single word that Moshe Rabbeinu changes, but there's some element of his character coming through the words of Sefer Devarim more than in any of the other books. You can just move that. Yeah, it is Chaim's tefillin, so don't put it on the floor. But okay. Ukmoshe Nemar, Ho'il Moshe be'er es haTorah hazot. Okay, it says that it says in Devarim a few psukim later that on the other side of the Yarden, this is source number 5 on your sheets. It says be'ever Yarden be'eretz Moav, on the other side of the Yarden in the land of Moab, Moshe Ho'il Moshe be'er et haTorah hazot. Moshe undertook or began to expound this teaching. Okay, be'er et haTorah, like lahav ear, to light up, to give light to explain, to enlighten the people with what the Torah actually means, right? It's very, very important to remember that Hashem, as much as he wants to be known by us, and as much as he put himself into Torah, there is no comparison between Hashem, who is infinite and, all-knowing, to the fact that Hashem is also infinite and unknowable. So how does the infinite unknowable one make himself known? He contracts himself, right? He put himself into Torah. But that doesn't necessarily mean that we, from our end, have access to that. It means that Hashem did like his part, right? He made himself ki'ilu smaller, but we also need to be able to access it. And that's what Sefer Devarim is. Sefer Devarim, because it comes through the mouth of Moshe Rabbeinu, it becomes this gateway for us to understanding what Hashem is actually saying in the rest of Torah. We don't even know what we would not know because we've never not had Sefer Devarim, right? Let me say that in other words. We always have had, Baruch Hashem, we've always had Sefer Devarim. So we've always understood Torah through the light of Sefer Devarim, through the lens of Moshe Rabbeinu. So thank God, we don't even understand how ununderstandable it would have been to us without Sefer Devarim. Okay, let me keep on going. The Perush Rashi, and Rashi says about that pasuk that Moshe Ho'il, right, to be'er the Torah, he began to explain the Torah. B'shiv'im lashon parsha lehem, right? Parsha lehem. That Moshe Rabbeinu, what does Rashi say? What does it mean? Explaining, or that he was enlightening? That he actually said it in 70 different languages. Now we know that part of what we need when we learn Torah is like onkelos, right? Onkelos is not really a perush. Onkelos is a translation, but because every translation, every language has its own nuances, when we give over Torah in English, we are automatically putting our own understanding on what the Torah is telling us. I remember that when I was in Ulpan, there were certain times where the teacher would never ever speak in English. It wasn't like translate. He would never speak in English. He would never translate something. He just would explain a specific Hebrew word using other Hebrew words. But in my mind, I had to find the correct, the appropriate, the specific English word in order to fully understand the nuances of what the Hebrew word was actually saying to me. And so until I found that word that really contained, or several words that really contained the nuance of the Hebrew word, I didn't really understand it. And so that happens with Torah as well. V'chen nidrash chatzva amudei shiva. Okay, so it says in Mishlei that chochma banta besa chatzva amudeha shiva. It says, we actually had this in a different shiur, the shiur on On Ben Pellet's wife, where it says wisdom has built her house, and it says she has hewn, Hewn, her 7 pillars. Okay, so now there's a midrash on It's a Gemara in Sanhedrin. It says, or there's several different explanations really of what those 7 pillars are. What does it mean that through these 7 pillars, Chochmah built her house, or through these 7 pillars, the world was created? That's one of the ways of understanding it. It means Elu Zayin Yemei Breshit, that these 7, right? 7 is a big number. We all know as soon as I say 7, what do you think of? 7, 6 days of creation and Shabbos, right? The 7th day is Shabbos. We think of a week, 7 days. That's a unit, okay? So 7, there's gonna be 3 things that they list for 7, okay? So 7 days of creation. Behind Zayin Midos, hatachtonim, okay? Also the 7 midos hatachtonim, the 7 emotional attributes of Hashem. And it says in the Zohar that Umida Zayin Shehu Keneged Shabbos Malkata Malchus Peh Toshba or Torah Shabal Peh Karinan La. Okay, so this is a very, very important point. So when I say Zayin, there's the 7 days of creation, and then there's the 7 midos, and the 7th of both of those things is the 7th of the days of creation is Shabbos, and the 7th of the midos is Malchus. So immediately there's a correlation, okay, that Shabbos is Malchus, and it says in it says in the explanation on the Gemara that the 7th midah is like Shabbos, and that's called Torah Sheba'al Peh. Okay, why is Shabbos like Torah Sheba'al Peh, or why is Malchus like Torah Sheba'al Peh? So one idea is that Malchus is like the lowest aspect of Hashem, and Ke'ilu like the highest aspect of our world. And so because of that, it is like the bridge between Hashem and us. Also, it's the Torah Sheba'al Peh is our struggle, like I was just explaining, our struggle to understand Torah Shebichtav is Torah Sheba'al Peh, right? When we're talking and we go through Gemara, or we are trying to understand an inyan in Torah, there's never a time that we're not talking in Torah Sheba'al Peh. A, because we're speaking, okay? So immediately it's Ke'ilu Torah Sheba'al Peh, right? And there's an idea. Rav Weinberger has a shiur on this also, so you can feel free to listen to him. I debated because I don't want to repeat, his shiur, but obviously he's like so brilliant that I can't help but be affected by it. So he points out that Shabbos, you can't write on Shabbos. So anything that happens on Shabbos is Torah Sheba'al Peh, right? So, but every time we speak words of Torah, they are automatically Torah Sheba'al Peh because they're words of Torah that are coming out of our mouths. But and in that way, it's always how we understand it, whether it's that I'm mispronouncing words and therefore I kind of like understand them a different way, right? Sometimes I see things that aren't really there because I spell things wrong sometimes, and I'm like, oh, that's just like such and such, and someone says to me like, no, not really, because it's actually a different shoresh. And I'm like, yeah, but it's there, right? Like I see it. If I see it, then maybe it's there, So there's an idea of that every time we, that our struggles in trying to understand Torah is Torah Sheba'al Peh, and therefore it's our reaching up towards Hashem. V'chen nidrash chatz v'amudei shiv'a elu zayin sifrei Torah, and there is a way of darshaning out also that the 7 amudim, the 7 pillars, are the 7 sifrei Torah. Right? We talked about this a few weeks ago when we talked about in the middle of Sefer Bamidbar. There's that little pasuk vayihi bin so'aron, those 2 psukim, and that in the Gemara discusses that in itself is its own Sefer Torah. So you have Bereshit, Shmot, Vayikra, and then the first part of Bamidbar, that's 4 books. That little 2 psukim Sefer is 5 books. The rest of Sefer Bamidbar is 6 books. And then all of Sefer Devarim is the 7th book. So there's all these ksharim that are connections that are 7. So we have, 7 is the 7 days of creation, of which the 7th is Shabbos. 7 are the 7 midos, the 7th of which is Malchus, and 7 are the 7 books of the Torah, the 7th of which is Sefer Devarim. So there's this connection between Devarim, Malchus, and Shabbos. Okay, so all 3 of them have this aspect of us in our, hi, come on in, Bailey Shah. All 3 of them have this aspect of us in this lower realm, Bailey Shah, of us in this lower realm, reaching up to Hashem and trying to know him. There's this bridge, right? Shabbos is the bridge between the weekday, the regular life, and Kedusha. Malchus is the bridge between the other spheres, which are much, much higher and kind of out of our reach, and us. I can't even give you anything because I sent it all on the phone though. Okay. The Sefer Zehu Sefer Zayin, right? And this book is the 7th book. Keneged Midas Malchus, the Malchus Peh Toshba. And so therefore, Devarim is basically the beginning of Torah Sheba'al Peh. Even though we call it Torah Shebichtav, it's part of the Chamisha Chumshei Torah, but it is the gateway towards the idea and the concept of Torah Sheba'al Peh. There would not be able to be a Torah Sheba'al Peh if there wasn't a Sefer Devarim. V'zeh ha'inyan shenichtav b'sefer zed dibros shnios. And that's why it says in Devarim that these are the second dibros, right? The second set of dibros, the second luchos, de'i, and de'ita, that it says in Shmos Rabbah, and this is on the source sheet if you have it. It says that, and I'll just read the pasuk from Reb Tzaddik first. Achshav shenitzarta ani noten lecha halachos midrash ve'agados. Okay, so it says in the midrash that what are the second set of luchos? It's when we were sorry, right? Shenitzarta, right? That we were sorry for what we did with the ched ha'egel, right? Hashem gave us the first luchos, and then we did the ched ha'egel, and Moshe Rabbeinu breaks the first luchos, and then Hashem forgives us, Baruch Hashem, and he gives us the second set of luchos. And it says in the midrash that the second set of luchos come with halachas and midrash and agada, right? It comes with extra laws. It comes with extra levels of understanding, and it comes with extra stories and inyanim that are sort of more ethereal. Okay. And the midrash basically says, like, don't feel bad about the first tablets. Those were only the 10 commandments. The second tablets, that has more width, more breadth to it. The second, so can you imagine if we only had the first set of luchos and there was no way to sort of like darshan things out from there? So what Hashem is saying is like, I mean, it's all hashgacha pratis, right? Hashem had this intention that, and we once did a shiur about this, that the whole idea of ched egel was in order to understand that there is such a thing as making a mistake and doing tshuva for it. And when we understand, right, that there is such a thing as making a mistake, that everyone makes mistakes, and that the next step in making a mistake is making up for the mistake and improving yourself out of it. And actually what comes out of that? Growth and breadth and depth, because that's what Hashem is showing us. That if we were all perfect, ke'ilu, right? As if that could be, then how boring would it be? We would be basically like at this level, and we wouldn't be able to have that kind of depth that we have because we make mistakes and we grow from them. And that's actually that's what the second set of luchos symbolizes. That from the mistake comes this incredible amount of growth and depth and possibility. Okay, so he says, "Ubeluchos ashnayim ani noten lecha sheyehe bahem halachos v'chule." Oh, this is a quote. It says, "Oh, this is the wording of the where was it? It was the word. It was the lashon of the actual midrash. I I didn't write it down. Sorry. Okay, whatever. I don't remember what the hey dalet is. I'll have to look it up. Okay. V'yaged l'cha v'chule ki kiflayim latoshi. Oh, latoshet. Where was that? Oi, I have so many sources here, and now I can't find that. What was that? Oh, right. This is the source. It's the words of the, okay. Hada hu dichtiv. It's on your source sheet when you find it, when you print it out later. Hada hu dichtiv. This is why it says, v'yaged l'cha ta'alumos chochma ki kiflayim latoshia. I will give you, it says, it's a quote from Eov. Thank you. Sorry. It's a quote from Eov. I will tell you hidden wisdom, for it shall be double comforting. How about that? Kiflaim toshia. Kiflaim toshia. It will be a double comforting. Not only because I've forgiven you, but because I'm actually giving you more than what you had to start with, more than what you had before you made the mistake. So you see that making the mistake was all part of the plan because you're growing from it. Okay, beautiful. That's the first inyan. So the first inyan was that that Torah Sheba'al Peh is opened up by Devarim, and that Elu HaDevarim basically symbolizes that this Sefer is the gateway to all of Torah Sheba'al Peh. Okay, inyan number 2, habet. Okay, you all with me? Here we are. I'm over here on the screen. Vehabet. I'm going to move it up. Okay, so top line that's on your screen. Vehabet nidrash ela devarim al divrei tochachot. Okay, the second inyan, the second explanation of the words ela devarim is the fact that they are tochacha. Okay, they're words of enabling. What did I say at the beginning? Enabling us to learn from our mistakes and grow from them. Okay. V'shnehem nichlalim b'lashon ela hadvarim. Both of these inyanim are included in the phrase ela hadvarim. Al perush masha omrim b'shem hayehudi hakadosh. Okay, and now he quotes. This is like literally my favorite vort on Sefer Devarim ever. That, although I say that a lot if you know me by now, that the Yid Hakadosh, okay, who was a kilu a student but really like a contemporary of the Rav Tzaddik, okay. Zichrono livracha, shelamad b'chol yom eze psukim mesefer Mishnah Torah, that he learned every single day some psukim from the book of Devarim. Why? Shamar shehulo l'sefer musar, because for him, he said it was the best sefer musar. It was the best sefer that taught him how to be a better person. Umazeh davka sefer devarim halo yesh kama sifrei musar. Right? Why was it so special to him? Why did he say that about sefer devarim? Right? Because there's many sifrei musar. Right? I'm Bezrat Hashem. I'm going right now through Masilas Yesharim. Very, very important sefer of musar, and musar is so important for us. But there's so many books of musar, and Devarim is not like known as a sefer musar. It's not written by a tzaddik that, you know, this is how you should be. And yet, you know, the Yid HaKadosh and Rav Tzaddik HaKohen is quoting that sefer Devarim is actually the best version, the best sefer musar. Why? Achal pi Masha Katuva Tanya, right? Okay. So according to what the Tanya, the Alter Rebbe wrote, Hahevdel ben tochachot shalomdi mitoch hasparim. This is the difference between tochacha, words of growth and you know, helping us see what we're doing wrong, that we learn from a sefer, from a book, uben masha shomim mipi mochiach chai. And words of tochacha that you hear from a living person, from the mouth of a living person, right? And that's why it's also so important to you know, to be at a shiur, either on Zoom or you know, or in person, and not just to, like, you know, read about it afterwards. I mean, I guess listening now, Baruch Hashem, we have the means to like listen to something. For me, I'm actually massively audio focused. I do have visual things. I'm really both, but much more audio. That I hear things and they go much deeper into my heart than reading things. Sometimes I have to hear them and read them in order for them to go into my heart. But like, there's no comparison between receiving from a person who, first of all, not words of criticism. That's not what we're saying. Okay. That is a whole other category. And that's a different shiur. Okay. But words that are meant, right? I heard the most beautiful thing. I'm going to misquote it, but it's basically this idea that I've been sort of living with the past few months, that you should only take, there are certain people that want to see you fly. And there are certain people that, don't really care or want to see you fall. And we should only take words of tochacha from a person that wants to see us fly. Because a person that wants to see us fly, we know that these words are intended as a growth experience. We know that these words are intended as something that we can hold onto as a foothold in our ladder up. Whereas obviously in the lahefech, like from a person that wants to, put you down or raise themselves up, which is really the same thing, or doesn't really care, doesn't really know you, right? That's why all those comments on the internet are like, we shouldn't even look at them, because they're mostly from people that either don't know us or don't really, aren't in our inner circle. That we have to have a few people that, that we bring things to, that we run things by. And we say, what do you think about this? Did I act, appropriately? And only those people who want to see us fly are those people that we should tell these things to, because their words of rebuke are intended to serve as a platform for us from which we can grow. And a lot of us have this tendency to, like, when we did something that we're not sure about, we kind of run it past everybody. Or, we put ourselves out there and we read every single comment that anybody makes, or we listen to any comment, especially like, sometimes as a teacher, when I would stand up in front of students, that's like, okay, you can't take anything that the students say about you personally as like a personal thing, because they're not your contemporaries. They may be grumpy about, their lack of sleep. They may be annoyed that they have 5 other assignments to do. And it's not about, it's not about you. Like, obviously there are things that we need to take and grow from them, but we also have to understand how to filter out those things that are not intended for our growth, that are not coming from a source that that wants to see us fly. But when it does come from that source, it can't come through like a book, right? It can, but it's much more powerful to go to a Rebbe, to go to a teacher. We don't have, we don't have so many, we're not hearing their words, from their mouths these days, okay? But it is much more powerful to go and talk to someone face to face that you have that bond with, because that's going to be much more powerful. Words from the heart enter the heart. Okay. Okay. Right? Because when the person is saying them, they come from that person's heart. And because they come from that person's heart, they're going into your heart. Now he's going to actually enable us to do this through books in 1 second, okay? And I'll explain why. Velashon ela hadvarim hu kmo lashon ze hadavar. Okay, so the lashon ela hadvarim is like the lashon of ze hadavar. This is the thing. We had that last week in Matos Maseh. Okay, in Matos it says ze hadavar, and there's countless divrei Torah about why it says ze hadavar. Moshe Rabbeinu is the only Navi who uses that language, ze hadavar. This is the thing that Hashem said, okay? And Elo hadavarim is just plural of that. Rak sham belashon yachid, v'kan belashon rabim, okay? Ve'amarnu al mashe ita besifri, and it says in the Medrash, in Parshas Matos, Mosif alehem Moshe shenitneva bazeh hadavar, hainu shebishas she'amar Moshe Rabbeinu alav shalom, zos Hashem ze hadavar, az hayotze mipi hakadosh baruch hu, shaya shchinas medaberet mitoch garono. So that was a very long sentence. It says that when he says ze hadavar, okay, when Moshe Rabbeinu says ze hadavar, his way of nitneva, nevuah, okay, he's prophesying differently from every other Navi that would ever speak. Okay, that when Sha'as Sha'amar Moshe Rabbeinu, that when Moshe Rabbeinu said these things, as Yotze mipi HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it came out of Hashem's mouth, Kavyachol, that mitoch garono, from Moshe's throat. It came from Hashem's mouth, but through Moshe's throat. And that's the difference between Moshe Rabbeinu. Velo k'nevuot sha'ar hanevi'im, not like the nevuah of the rest of the nevi'im, shenemar belashon ko amar Hashem, because the rest of the nevi'im say ko amar Hashem. This is like what Hashem said, right? Ke. We had the ke hadimyon, many months ago with the Kedushas Levi, where he explained, or Ishbitz, I think, where he said that the kaf beforehand means like, right? This is like what Hashem said, but it's not exactly what Hashem said, because in those nevuas, the Navi is, first of all, sometimes he would get a vision and he would have to describe the vision with his own words. And sometimes he would get it, when he was asleep. Moshe Rabbeinu was the only one who, Ke'ilu, Hashem was, whispering in his ear, and it was coming out Moshe Rabbeinu's mouth as Hashem was saying it, and in the exact words that Hashem was saying it. And Moshe Rabbeinu is the only Navi that ever did that. Shemesaper ma she'amar Hashem yisparach, right? All the other Nevi'im were like telling what Hashem said, but not saying it as Hashem was saying it. V'ken kan more gam ken halashon ela devarim, and this also teaches us about a very specific idea about the lashon ela devarim. Asher diber Moshe, shezeh hu hakoach b'divrei Mishnah Torah. This is the power, the koach of Sefer Devarim. Shemi shekoreh bahem hu keshomea ata mipi Moshe. That when we read the words of Sefer Devarim, it is like we are hearing them right now from the mouth of Moshe Rabbeinu. How? V'hen eila hadvarim asher Moshe dober ata bepi hakore. Because this is actually how it happens. Eila hadvarim means these are the words. So this is like, we always have to have like a little kind of just a reframe or like a shift in focus, meaning it's not ke'ilu like we're telling, of something that happened in the past. It's that from the beginning of the Sefer of Devarim, when we say, Eila ha-devarim asher diber Moshe el kol Yisrael be'ever ha-yarden, and we then read the words, these are the words. So it's ke'ilu the same way that Hashem's voice came through Moshe's mouth. So Moshe's voice is coming through our mouth. That when we say the words of Sefer Devarim, because it starts with this gateway, it opens this koach up for us that we then speak ke'ilu with Moshe Rabbeinu's mouth, and Moshe Rabbeinu was speaking with Hashem's mouth. So it's like the in-between tunnel between Hashem's tunnel and our tunnel, right? And it's going through the lens of Moshe Rabbeinu, but it's Hashem's words coming through Moshe Rabbeinu and then coming through our mouths. V'divrei Moshe hem zeh hadavar asher tziva Hashem, right? When Hashem says, when Moshe Rabbeinu says zeh hadavar asher tziva Hashem, this is the thing that Hashem commands us, like it says above, v'chtiv ken divrei asher yetze mipi lo yashiv elai rekam rak nichnas lelev bepoel betach. So this is a quote from Yeshayahu where it says, it's on your source sheet, source number 12. It says, I'm just going to read it in English, but as the heavens are high above the earth, so are my ways high above your ways, and my plans are above your plans. But Ki kasher yired hageshem v'asheleg min hashamayim, but as the rain and the snow drops from heaven, v'shama lo yashuv, and never ever returns back there, right? The snow never falls down and then flies back up again. The rain doesn't fall down and fly back up again. What happens to them? Ki im hirva et haaretz They soak through the earth. V'holida v'itzmicha v'natan zera lezarea v'lechem la'ochel. They bring forth vegetation, right? The rain falls down on the ground and it doesn't disappear. It waters our plants, it waters our vegetation, and it yields seed for sowing and bread for eating. It gives birth to something, that it strengthens, it creates something. So is the word that issues from my mouth. It does not come back to me unfulfilled. Mwah, love you. But performs what I propose, achieves what I sent it to do. Okay, so Hashem is saying that his words are like the rain and the snow that falls on the ground. The same way that when the rain falls on the ground, it doesn't just, disappear and evaporate. It creates something. It causes a seed to be born. It causes a seed to sprout. It causes something to grow. So too with his words. His words enter into us and it causes us to seed and sprout. It causes changes within us. And even though we know that in the midst of the winter or in the midst of the Ben HaMitzarim that we're in right now, we don't see necessarily the growth of the seedling. We know that the seed has to break down before it can actually sprout a new growth. So the same thing happens with us. And the same way that the seed, it happens underground, and in the middle of the winter, it looks like everything is dead and nothing is going to grow back. And then in the spring, it does. So the same is true with us, that sometimes we think that these words are not having an effect on us. Sometimes we think that we're just reading this over and over and over again. I'm now, Baruch Hashem and Kanai Nahar, 47 years old. How many times have I read Parsha Devarim? Right? How many times have I heard the words of Sefer Devarim? And yet I have to know, Hashem is telling me here, that every single time I hear it, every single word that I hear makes some kind of seedling be born within me, makes some kind of growth, some kind of change. And that is the koach of Sefer Devarim. Now, here, wait, let me, okay. So that's I mean, if it was just for that, that's really what I wanted to cover. But there's this whole second part here, okay? That I know it's like time, and if you have to go, you have to go. And I know I've gone over lately, the time a little bit, okay? But I'm gonna keep on doing it, and anybody that wants to stick with me can stick with me. It adds another dimension onto it, okay? So Baruch Hashem, I'm gonna keep on plowing forward, okay? And he says, he goes over here. מוסיף עליהם משה, הכוח בדברי משנה תורה, הן, okay. ודברי משה הם זה הדבר אשר, I know we read that already. Okay, זה מעלס דברי התוכחה של משנה Torah. And this is the Mila, this is the, the extra, what's the word, Mila? The benefit, thank you. The benefit of the words of Tochacha, of Mishnah Torah, of Sefer Devarim, okay? Dichtiv Eila HaDevarim, she'akore bahem shomea ata Eila HaDevarim asher dober Moshe ata befi hakore, right? That like he said above, that it's like words coming from a living, breathing mouth, goes into our hearts. So that's the power of Sefer Devarim. Every time we read it, it's not a book. Every time we read it, it's the koach of a living person giving over. And it's not just a living person, it's the koach of Moshe Rabbeinu coming through us and going into the world and into our hearts. V'chen b'tzion ksiv asi machshach lifnehem le'or. Okay, this is the quote that we had at the very beginning of the piece. He's going to bring it around again, that this is why it says in the times of Mashiach, I will, give light to what's dark and I will straighten what is crooked. Right? Darkness is actually called Torah Sheba'al Peh, as it says in the Midrash, Ha'am ha'holchim b'choshech ra'u or gadol. or shenivra bayom rishon shenigniz. Okay, I'm going to stop there. I'm going to pause there. It says in the Midrash, okay, that the Torah Sheba'al Peh is called darkness because it's hard to understand. Specifically, oh, you know what? He's going to get to that in 1 minute. Specifically, in 1 second, he's going to say the Gemara Bavli, the Talmud Bavli, is specifically referred to as darkness because it's so hard to understand. And Mata Esther, I know you're with me on this, that that Daf Yomi is like kilu impenetrable if you're not listening to it with someone who's explaining it correctly, because it's so boiled down and it is like total darkness if we don't have it being enlightened for us by the Talmidei Chachamim and by whoever's giving our Daf Yomi Shiur, okay? I certainly, or Art Scroll, if you're using, you know, just the text, which is, you know, has quotes from Rashi, quotes from the Rif, quotes from the, right? Like all the explanation, all the Torah Sheba'al Peh on the Torah Sheba'al Peh is what makes it, you know, lighter. But so it's referred to as darkness, and it says in the Midrash that this nation walks in darkness, and Hashem enlightens them, okay? And the Or Gadol is the Or Shenivra Bayom Rishon, and the big light is the light that Hashem created on the first day. Shenignezu HaKadosh Baruch Hu LaAmalei Torah Sheba'al Peh, that Hashem put away or like hid, right? Hid and gave to the tzaddikim, or the people that explain the Torah Sheba'al Peh, because through this hidden light they can see in the darkness of Torah Sheba'al Peh that they actually see the light. V'chen nidrash, and that's why it's explained in Sanhedrin, b'machashachim hoshiveni zeh talmudah shel Bavel. Okay, that the it says in the Gemara that the students who learn in darkness or dwell in darkness are the students of the Talmud Bavli. Torah Sheba'al Peh hu bechinas tale de atika, that the Torah Sheba'al Peh is the level of ancient tal. Tazal ketal amarti shezochin lahotzi or harishon mitoch hachoshech davka. That just like that ancient tal is like what sits on the ground and enables things to grow. So these Torah scholars have the ability to lahotzi or harishon, to bring out that original light and to explain it. Umakshim lemishor, and the straightening of what's crooked. Hem divrei tochacha. That is, how do you straighten something that's crooked? With words of tochacha. Shehem liyasher lev ha'akum, because their intention and their power is in straightening out things that are crooked. Kmo shekatu b'Gemara, it says in the Gemara Brachas, lo nivru re'emim ela lepashet akmimius shebalev. That Hashem, why did Hashem create thunder, things like thunder, in order to straighten out the heart, right? Because when we see thunder, when we hear lightning, it makes us remember that there's something so powerful in the world as Hashem. It scares us, and when we get scared, that awakens our yiras shamayim, our yiras Hashem, our awe of Hashem, and that enables us to once again sort of, you know, recenter ourselves that there is a Hashem in the world and that He's in charge of everything. And we should be in awe of Him, because it's also comforting to be in awe of the all-powerful Hashem. V'zeu gam ken al yidei Torah Sheba'al Peh, shehu harav chochma sheba letaken harav ka'as. That this is also the through, right? How do we enlighten the things, and how do we bring the light out of the darkness? Through Torah Sheba'al Peh, because it's called the Rav Chochma. It's called the wisdom that comes to fix harav kas, our anger, our mistakes. That had Bnei Israel not sinned, we would have only received the Chamisha Chumshei Torah, the Torah Shebichtav. And it says somewhere else, and say for Yoshua, because that tells about the conquest of the land. But we would not have had any of the rest of Tanakh, and we would not have had the Gemara, and we would not have had the Zohar, and we would not have had all of these other things that are Torah Sheba'al Peh if we hadn't sinned, okay? Except that this is the right. So we need them because we have these mistakes to correct. But through the correction of the mistakes, we also make the world and ourselves a better place. And we give Hashem such pleasure when we work on ourselves and we want to grow towards him. That gives him the greatest simcha. V'zeu or zarua letzaddik. And this is why it says in Tehillim, or zarua letzaddik, uleyishrei lev simcha, right? That light is given to the righteous, or is sown for the righteous, in order to leyishrei lev, right? In order to straighten the heart, because straightening the heart gives us simcha. Shehu raharav chokhmah. The tzaddik is that, that chokhmah, that wisdom, that is the light that straightens out the heart. The alzeh amru tzaddik, it says in Masechet Tanis, tzaddikim leora shel tzaddik mofia bo Hashem yisparach meor harishon. That it says that the tzaddik shines the light of Hashem's will into the world. That through the tzaddik shines this light from the first day of creation. The kevan shezochen leor az mimei leor tzaddikim yisamach. That because they merit this light, so through the or of the tzaddikim we can become happy, right? The tzaddik knows how to use that light to straighten our heart and to give us simcha. Shezochel liyasher halev, to straighten out the heart. Mikol v'kol ve'az yisharim lesimcha dichtiv liyishrei lev simcha. That's everything that I just said. I'm just trying to go through it quickly so you get the idea. V'zeu aperush u'ma'akshim lemishor, and that's the explanation of what is crooked I will straighten. Hem divrei hatochacha shemiyashrin libo shel adam. Right? These are words of tochacha that help us straighten out our hearts and become better people. V'zos kolel gamkein aperush eila hadevarim. And this is also included way back there at the beginning, those two words, eila hadevarim, shenemar b'tzion kamo eila hadevarim dekan. Because A, they're words of tochacha, and B, we're seeing that this reference that it will be like in the times of Mashiach, that these Eila Devarim are what bring us to the times of Mashiach. The Amar Asisim Velo Azavtim Shebe'emes, right? And Hashem says, I do things and I will not forsake them. I do these things and I will not forsake them, like bring the rain and cause the growth to happen. Shebe'emes Hashem Yisparach Oseh Shnehem, right? Really, both of these ideas, the fact that they are tochacha and the fact that they are words that enable us to bring about growth, and they're Torah Sheval Peh. Shnehem HaTorah Sheval Peh. Hem divrei Elokim Chaim, v'ken hadivrei tochacha, hem divrei asher yatsa mipi, v'lo yashuv elai rekam. Right? That it's all, every time a tzaddik speaks, it's from really the mouth of divrei Elokim Chaim. Just the same way that Hashem enabled Moshe Rabbeinu to speak with the words of Kilu Hashem's mouth. So through Sefer Devarim, he gave that power, that koach, to all tzaddikim. And every time a tzaddik speaks, it's through the mouth of Hashem, through Ruach HaKodesh, through divine providence. It's really all through Hashem's mouth. It's really all lo yashuv elai rekam. It's really all, everything that a tzaddik says is that same idea of the rain coming down and causing growth. It never comes back empty, right? Lo yashuv elai rekam. It doesn't come back fruitless, meaning it doesn't not cause a change to happen. And through this power, that which is crooked is straightened. And his is the last line is so chazak and so awesome for all of us, because the Rav Tzaddik Cohen, throughout his whole book, he always ends with a concept of Shabbos. So we began at the beginning that all of this, Sefer Devarim, Torah Sheval Peh, Malchus, is all equals to Shabbos, right? Shabbos, Zocha kol echad miYisrael lihiyot kamo shene'amar v'diber davar sheyidaber davar. Sorry. V'daver davar. So on Shabbos, we all get this koach. Like I said right at the beginning, quoting Rev Weinberger, that everything that we say on Shabbos is Torah Shebaal Peh because we can't write it down. It's never written. We never write on Shabbos. Everything about Shabbos is Torah Shebaal Peh, because also the three ideas that Rav Tzadok said at the beginning, because Shabbos is the seventh pillar, because Shabbos is Malchus, because Shabbos is Devarim, because Shabbos is Torah Shebaal Peh, because Devarim and Malchus are Torah Shebaal Peh. It's all connected. So every single thing that we say on Shabbos is at the level of Sefer Devarim. Every single thing that, if we want it to be, right? And when we're aware, it is, but when we're aware of it, it's always better. When we're aware of it, then we actually can access the koach that it gives us. Sheyidaber vayihi b'pchinas pi Hashem, right? It's everything that you say is at the level of pi Hashem. Hashem's voice speaking through your throat, through my throat, through our throats. The commotion needs ba'er, Kaperish, I think. V'zocha the Torah Shebaal Peh, kamo shekasu v'zohar, v'yom ha'shvi'i da Torah Shebaal Peh, v'zochin liyasher ha'akmumius shebalev v'al yidei zeh liyishrei lev simcha. Because it says in the Zohar that Yom HaShvi'i da, that Shabbos is Torah Shebaal Peh. And therefore, we merit to straighten our crookedness in our hearts and Yishrei Lev Simcha, and have the happiness of a straightened heart. Because the Simcha of connection to Hashem on the day of Shabbos, that the Simcha that comes from knowing that every word that comes out of our mouths is that at that level of Shabbos, is at that level of Torah Shebaal Peh, is at that level of Malchus, is at that level of speaking with, the words and the mouth of Hashem. So then we automatically connect ourselves to Hashem. And when we're connected, we that's the ultimate happiness. Our soul being revealed and being connected to Hashem, that's its source of strength and growth and light and happiness, and gives us so much chizuk and so much power to bring into the week. Whew. So that's the end of the piece. I will give us all a bracha that this coming Shabbos, which is Shabbat Chazon, which has so much koach in and of itself, where the Kedushas Levi, Reb Levi Yitzchak Berditchev, told us all that we all get a vision of the Mikdash Hashlishi, that these kinds of things, when I say them, it's all a matter of holding on to them. It's all a matter of knowing that this is happening, and then trying to feel it with some ounce of our being, that maybe some word that I say on Shabbos, I can connect to that idea that I'm actually saying something with the intention that it's connecting me to Hashem. So I'll give us all a bracha that our words this coming Shabbos should be enhanced by this special koach, by the knowledge of this special koach, and that we should use them to give ourselves and our family more connection and more love, and ourselves, that we should use our words, that we should know that in the use of our words, we are connecting our souls back to our Creator, and we are giving ourselves the strength to keep on pushing forward, because forward is what it's all about. Mwah. Have a wonderful, wonderful month, and Bezrat Hashem, we will learn together again in Elul.
Shoshana.
Yes.
So first of all, I had to turn down my mic. Your enthusiasm is just like unbelievable. I love it. And second of all, most of all, is that I never would see Devarim that way. Like that, because sometimes you trudge through Daf Yomi and you think you're like learning halacha that
Right.
way. You know what I mean? Through that back door. But to understand that Devarim is Musar, and to see it, to know it as coming from the mouth of Moshe and like the mouth of Moshe Rabbeinu is unbelievably different vantage point to see Devarim. I really, really appreciate that because I think it'll give me every single, because there are mitzvot that come through in Devarim that didn't come through in the last time that, or the other times they were given. I mean, it really, I think you're just lending me a really different specialness to the whole book. Thank you so much.
It's my absolute privilege and pleasure. And thank Rav Tzadok. And yeah, Baruch Hashem. This, I'm gonna miss this year. I think I need to take this month, but I'm really gonna miss learning with all of you. And
we'll miss you too.
Look forward to reconnecting again. Have a beautiful week.
Amen. Amen. Chag Sameach.
You too.